where there is a press conference taking place right now from veterans of National Guard's troops. Why? Because if you've been paying attention, President Donald Trump has been signaling that he would like to bring in National Guardsmen like he has in D.C. to Illinois, mainly Chicago. Okay. And so far, the governor of Illinois, the mayor of Chicago, they have pushed back on the notion, even after a violent weekend in Chicago in which there were many people who were shot and some who died over the weekend as well. So we want to listen in to see what these individuals are saying here in Chicago. I just wanted to give a little bit of context before we just took the shot.
To deploy any military troops or National Guard units here in Chicago. There's absolutely no basis whatsoever. As Governor Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson have forcefully expressed, such a deployment of troops is unnecessary, unconstitutional, illegal, and immoral. A bedrock principle embodied in the U.S. Constitution and U.S. law prohibits federal armed forces, including federalized National Guard units, from engaging in civilian law enforcement activities. That means policing. That means arrest, searches, detentions. Specifically, the Posse Comitatus Act, a federal law, prohibits the military and other armed forces from engaging in actions that exert compulsory powers over civilians. There are very limited circumstances in which President Trump can invoke and federalize the National Guard units over a governor's consent. And here our governor absolutely is not consenting. Those circumstances embodied in the Insurrection Act, a federal law, do not exist here. We are not witnessing, we are not experiencing any insurrections, rebellions, or domestic violence that prevents the enforcement or execution of laws here in the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois. There is no justification for the invocation of the Insurrection Act. The other way that President Trump could invoke the National Guard is to use the statute 10 U.S.C. 12406, and that is used to repel an invasion or rebellion that prevents the execution of the law. This was the provision that President Trump and his administration used to invoke California's National Guard. As you may know, this morning, District Court Judge Charles Breyer of the Northern District of California found that the use of troops in California violated the Posse Comitatus Act. The court also enjoined Secretary of Defense and the Department of Defense from deploying, ordering, instructing, training, or using the National Guard currently deployed in California and any military troops to execute the laws, including, but not limited to, engaging in arrests, apprehensions, searches, seizures, security patrols, traffic control, crowd control, riot control, evidence collection, interrogation, or acting as informants. The decision by the federal court in California strongly corroborates what Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson have said, which is the deployment of National Guard units here in Chicago is illegal, unwarranted, and unconstitutional. We should not be putting our military troops and our National Guard units in this position. They should not be put in a position where they are enforcing illegal orders that are against our civilian population. That is not what is supposed to happen here in the United States. It's a bedrock principle of constitutional law. With that, I sincerely hope that this does not occur and that we do not put our military troops and our National Guard units in this unconscionable position. Thank you.
Okay, and now I'm going to ask all of our speakers to come up, answer your questions. One thing that come on up here, everyone, please. And you can shoot questions to whomever you want. Just one word to Governor Pritzker. File all the lawsuits that you want. The fact is, this president has shown over and over again he treats them like lousy pieces of paper. My friends behind me here have just outlined very concrete steps that Governor Pritzker can and must take right now. Lawsuits are pieces of paper to this clown in the White House. We need firmer action out of you, Governor Pritzker. With that, we'll take your questions.
I have a question for Daniel.
Sorry. Go for it, Daniel.
You asked for support from Governor Pritzker. What specifically do you mean? Are you talking about financial support for the lawsuits or lawsuit support? What are you talking about?
First, to make clear, as Commander-in-Chief, speaking directly to those who are under his command, not to report if he is declaring these orders illegal. So that is one more thing specifically in word. Indeed, to then support with the massive legal team that he has as governor to support the individuals that do then refuse the orders, to do more than file a lawsuit in federal court, to actually support the individuals who comprise the Guard, making legal resources available to them, supporting the networks that are doing that work in connection with them.
Okay, so you're listening to them. They are very passionate in their stance when it comes to the possibilities of troops being brought into Chicago, into Illinois. It is very important to note that breaking news that came in just under 20 minutes or so, that a district judge has ruled now that the use of federal troops in Los Angeles is unlawful. And this came in again today. This is after the Trump administration used, if you remember back several weeks ago now, to have federal troops there in Los Angeles to conduct law enforcement operations. That federal judge ruling today that that was not lawful. That U.S. District Judge Charles Breyer issued an order prohibiting troops from engaging in security patrols, riot control, arrest, searches, and crowd control. Now, here's the thing. The order does not take effect until September 12th to allow the Trump administration time to appeal. The judge gave the reasoning, said that the use of federal troops effectively created a, quote, national police force with the president as its chief and therefore violated law. So it's going to be interesting. The particular law in which the judge references here, I'm looking at it, goes back to 1878, which limits the military from being involved in civilian law enforcement unless Congress approves it or under circumstances, quote, expressly authorized by the Constitution. So that's going to be very interesting how things move forward based upon that ruling. Again, that is for Los Angeles. I do not believe that as I adjust this, I do not believe that can be used in the context of D.C. because, Sarah, if you remember, there was the ruling that took place maybe 2 or so months ago that limited those district judges to particular cases within the regions in which they were ruling on. So I do believe that this focuses in on Los Angeles. So the context behind it, though, you have what is taking place in D.C., where you just had the mayor of D.C. say that there are some crime statistics that are significantly down since the troops went into D.C. Mainly, I'm thinking about car break-ins. I believe the number was 63-something% since they've been there. So there's the argument now, is it working? What do you do beyond this? If you're in other cities like in Baltimore or Chicago or L.A., and the president has put out that he is eyeing and wanting to do the same thing in D.C. there. We're hearing the pushback for those leaders in those communities. We'll see what happens now that this ruling has been put in place if other cities, other governors try to push for a similar kind of decision in their communities. Again, this ruling, though, this order does not take effect until September 12th because the judge wants to give the Trump administration time to appeal.